In this video, I'd like to explain to you how to use CodingBat, which is a site that we'll use very frequently to learn some and practice new skills and test to make sure that we're understanding the concepts in class. So we're going to walk through a specific problem in CodingBat, one that I haven't really assigned yet, and show you how it works, and also introduce a new programming construct called a conditional. And so that's how we make decisions in programming. So let's take a look at this problem and then walk through what CodingBat does and how it works and what everything means. And so we've got this problem called sum double. And you can see here at the top there's a description. It says given two integer values, return their sum. Unless the two values are the same. If the two values are the same, then we want to return double their sum. And what it then gives you is three examples, right? So this sum double is an example of what we call a function. And you should, if you're in Unit 2, you're learning about functions. Functions are, just like in math, they're entities that have input and give output, right? And so in CodingBat, all of the functions that you write will have an output. They'll have an answer, right? And so we're asking the question, what is the sum of these two numbers, or what is double the sum if they're the same? And so this function will give an answer to that. And so what you see here in between the parentheses are the parameters of the function. Those are the inputs, 1 and 2 in the first case. And then on the right, you see the outputs, right? 3 in this case, right? Or 3 and 2, 3 plus 2 is 5, right? 2 plus 2 is 4, but those two values are the same, so we want to return double that. 4 doubled is 8, right? And so this is what we have. We have inputs in between the parentheses, we call those parameters. We have outputs on the right here, we call those return values. So every function that has an answer that we want to give as an output is going to have at the end of it a return statement. So how do we do this in CodingBat? Well, we come down to the coding window and we see that they've already given us a line. This line defines the name of the function and the inputs that it will accept. So they've already done that for us. Typically when you write your program, you'll have to write that. So this def means define, sum double is the name of the function, parentheses, and then the parameter list, in this case A and B, and then a colon. So following the colon, if you hit return, you'll see that everything's indented. And in Python, indentation is how code is grouped. So a function, I said earlier that it's like a machine that takes input and gives output. It's also can be considered a logical grouping of statements. So we can put a bunch of statements together in a function that together perform one more complex task. And that's what we're doing here. We're going to make a few lines that perform this complex task of summing numbers or doubling the sum, depending on whether or not those two numbers are the same. All right, so let's start with the easy case. What if the numbers are different? Well, we just want to add them. Well, that's pretty easy. Adding is just A plus B, right? But we want that to be the answer. And so in order to indicate that that's the answer and that we're done with the function, we would return that value. And so return is a keyword in Python, means our function is done, and this is the answer, A plus B. Okay? We don't need parentheses around that or anything, just return space the answer that we want. Now, this isn't the full answer because if the two numbers are the same, then this is going to give us the sum and not double the sum. So it's going to be a mistake. But let's click go anyway and see what happens. What happens when we click go is that CodingBat tries out our function with a bunch of different inputs. So you can see actually the first three tries are the three examples that it gives us, and we can see for sum double with an input 1 and 2, it's expecting that the answer is 3. The answer our function gave is 3, and so everything's okay. Same thing with the second example. 3 plus 2 is 5. It's expecting 5. Our function gave a 5, and so that's good. The third example, 2 plus 2 is 4, but 2 and 2 are the same, so that should double, so we're expecting 8. But our function gave 4 because it just returned A plus B, 2 plus 2. And so that's wrong. Now let me go back to parameters because I didn't mention this. A and B are placeholders for whatever values are passed in at the time the function is used. So this is a definition of the function, but it's not a use of the function. CodingBat uses the function and gives those A and B parameters actual values, actual parameters, arguments. 1 and 2, 3 and 2, 2 and 2. These all get put into the placeholders for A and B and are then used by the function, right? So we can see as we look at through the other examples, we did pretty well. The only ones we missed were when the two numbers were the same. So let's fix that now. And the way we're going to fix that is to use, again, what's called a conditional. We need to check and see if the two numbers are the same. So if the two numbers are the same, then we want to do something different. How do we do that? Well, conveniently enough, there's what's called an if statement in Python. And you can see it turn purple. That's a keyword in Python. What do we want to know? We want to know if the two numbers are the same. So we know if A equals B. But here's the thing. The equal sign in Python means assign, means make A equal B. That's not what we want to do. We don't want to make A equal B. We want to test to see if they are the same. So we need actually a different operator, not the single equal sign, but the double equal sign. The double equal sign in Python and in most programming languages tests to see if two things are the same. So now I'm asking, if A is equal to B, then do something, right? So if A equals B, and then we put a colon. Well, what do we want to do if A equals B? Well, we want to return twice the sum. Well, what's 2 times the sum? Well, the sum is A plus B. 2 times that, I have to say 2 times that sum. Remember, in Python, multiplication has to be done with an asterisk. We couldn't just say 2 parentheses A plus B because that would indicate that 2 is a command or a function, and it's not. We would get an error. So if A equals B, then 2 times A plus B is what we want, right? But I want to store that somewhere, so let's call that answer. So if A equals B, then the answer is 2 times A plus B. But what if A doesn't equal B? Well, then what we have is what's called an else statement, which means otherwise. So if A equals B, the answer is 2 times A plus B. Otherwise, the answer is A plus B, as it was before. And then, regardless, at the end, we'll just return whatever the answer turns out to be. Look at that and make sure it makes sense to you. Call me over if it doesn't. So this is a new command that lets you make decisions based on what we call conditions. So this is the condition, A being equal to B. You can have other conditions like A is less than B or A is not equal to B. We'll be talking about those in the future as well. But I just wanted to introduce this statement because it's going to be something that's important as we move forward in our programming skills. Let's try and run this again, see what happens. Hey, we got them all right. Excellent. Okay, so that's how CodingBat works. That's how functions work. And so good luck with the tasks ahead, and be sure to ask me questions if you have any trouble.